How do you increase your Shopify store's conversion rate? Whether you're drop shipping, whether you're housing a product, this is a question that you should be asking yourself, and it's a question that a lot of content creators make content about, and I'm going to tell you what the actual answer is in this video, and not the BS that you hear from every creator on YouTube. And before you jump off the video, you want to go through the entire video because I'm literally going to teach you how to make more money for free. And if you're already owning a store, you will literally make more money, but if you're thinking about getting into some entrepreneurial endeavor, this is what you need to do from the get-go to make the most amount of money. So grab your notebook. This is a no frills video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more info, and let's get straight into it. So everyone under the sun in the drop shipping space, the Shopify space, they talk about web design, they talk about, user interface, user experience on your site. They talk about all these metrics about, the graphic design and how you put things together, and sales funnels and sales flow. And while those are all really important metrics of your store, they're only really important when you're trying to solve the last piece of the puzzle, when you have you've got a 10% margin that you can fix, and you want to get that last, you want to get that 90% to 100% and get it over the line. That's when you go in and you could do all the things that everyone talks about online. The reason why they talk about that and they tell you that that's the problem is they're really bad at the 90% problem, not the 10% problem. And your biggest problem is actually your product and the problem that you're solving for your customer. Let me restate what I just said, because that is the most important part. If you're solving a problem for your customer, your conversion rate is going to be very, very high. I can tell you this from personal experience, from experience with colleagues, from experience consulting with organizations. When you have a product that does not solve a problem, you're then relying on your marketing skills to sell it, which is totally fine. That is the industry, but it's not hard to sell a product or a service that solves a problem. It's just a different type of product or choice in what you're selling to your consumer base. But if you truly solve a problem and you make someone's life easier, more enjoyable, whatever it is, if you just make someone happy, it can be anything, the product will sell itself. To give you perspective, my current business is being run with a $0 ad spend, and my conversion rate, like what you see on Shopify when everyone's like, you should be getting 4% because that's amazing, but they run at 2%. I'm at 9%. I fluctuate between 8 and 15% conversions at cart close. I have a really simple site. I've spent no time actually since the day that I designed it 3 years ago for this specific business, adjusting absolutely anything. And I'll be honest with you, it's not the prettiest website, but I have a product and a set of products that my customers need and want, and it's something that solves a problem that exists for them, and the product sells itself. They want it. So it solves two things for me, actually. One, I get a high conversion rate on my store. Two, I don't have to spend any money on ads, which is also very, very nice, which means my profit margins are very high. But the short answer is, solve 90% of the problem and not 10%. Obviously, if you have time, and you should have the time, you should make the time, focus on the UI, the UX, that is the user interface and the user experience of your store. Make it look pretty, make it easy to check out. But you need to make sure your product actually does something for your customer. And if it doesn't, you're playing a marketing game where it is completely done by paid media, paid traffic. You're basically spending to get paid, and it's all the calculations behind that. There's nothing else that you're going to do and be able to do to change it meaningfully. You might scrape, again, a 10% margin by changing up a few things and putting in a ton of time and perfecting something. You're not going to change the biggest gain, which is solving a problem for your customer. So if that's all you wanted to hear in the video, feel free to click check out now. I will give you, if you are interested, a kind of step-by-step on how I approach doing this and how I approach finding products that do this. This is going to be a little bit longer. We're going to go into it. It might be enjoyable. I can guarantee you, though, it will be useful for you. So if I were to start a new business, because my current business is doing well, and but if I were to start a new one and I were to put myself in your shoes, whether you have a business or you're looking to start, there's a few things that I would do. I'm a huge believer, if I really want a scalable business, I need to do two things. I would need to understand what are current trends and what are products that are currently working for people. I like to look at what's readily accessible or available, and I also like to spend time in social settings and understanding people. It isn't a hidden secret that if you can find a product that everybody can integrate on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be a billionaire. Well, maybe not a billionaire, but you're going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. But that is extremely hard to do. Most of us are just trying to make a drop in the bucket, but that's enough to be individually successful for a lifetime. But I like to combine the three. I like to understand what people are doing in social settings and what people are just doing with their lives, because I want something that has a high enough and large enough market cap that if I find success in a product, I can continue to grow that product. I want to see what I have access to, especially for you guys that are beginners. And honestly, if you're doing less than $1 million a month, your main platforms are going to be Alibaba, AliExpress, and working with that network to source products or making stuff on your own. So it needs to be something that's readily available or something that can be made for you. And I like to understand, what are people running for ads? The reason I like to understand this is because it gives you a lot of information about current ad costs. If people are running ads for products that are under $20, it lets you know that somebody's making money off that product, so you might be able to make a market entry with a cheaper product at that given time. But if you know the calendar year in ad spend, that's not always true. Around holiday months, it's really hard to sell cheaper products because ad costs go up. You can't scale the cost of your product up. More often than not, what you'll find is you actually have to provide discounts for your product to compete with other discounts regardless of your price point, just to make the customer feel like they're getting a deal. So it's harder to advertise in those times. But it can give you a scale of what people are spending and how expensive products need to be. So what I'll typically do, and what I've done even as I add products to my current store, because I want to keep by this meaningful rule book on what you have to do to find successful products, is I go online and I look at ads, and I just take, every time I'm on Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is, when I see an ad, I click on the product, I click on the ad, I figure out what is that product cost, so I can get a benchmark of, like, let's say it's October of 2024 or whatever it is, whatever that's, in the future. Whatever it is, I want to know that month for that year, what am I generally seeing? I write that all down and I get a range of products. And that influences what I'm going to be spending on, because if I ever had to go to paid media, I get an understanding of what other people can do. And if other people can do it, I can do it. So those are the rules that I put together. And that's a great starting place if you're trying to find like a winning product. I feel like that's the very cliche term, but a winning product that will give you high margins, it will solve a problem, and it can provide a high conversion rate, and it can even change the conversion rate for the rest of your store if you have an existing store that sells products, and ultimately, hopefully, lower your ad costs or remove your ad cost if you need to sell and if you want to have high profits. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. At least I'll see you guys that have subscribed in the next video. Hopefully you consider subscribing as well.